Hi, Lois.
Good morning, Estelle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay, okay. Uh,
Oh, that doesn't sound too good.
nah,
I know.
the news is,
I
I
know.
don't know.
I know. I know
It's,
exactly how you feel.
it
Yeah.
just hovers over everything, you
And
know?
absolutely, absolutely covers
Yeah.
over everything. Yeah, it's really awful.
What's really awful?
The news. Well, I mean,
Oh,
nothing new, Liz. It's just Estelle and I were just commenting that this news is just like it's in the background all the time. You know what I mean? It's
yes,
yeah,
I
yeah,
do.
Yes, I think everybody feels like that.
yeah, just
Yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah. Just feel you can't, I don't know, and although supposed to feel
Yeah,
joy in everything, but it's very hard right now.
right, right. Yeah.
Is Rabbi back from wherever
I
he
hope
went?
so.
I think so. I think he just said he was, just going to be gone over
Pardon?
the weekend.
Yeah, he was
So,
supposed, no, he was supposed to be back on Friday. It was for Shabbos.
oh, I thought he was staying there till
I don't know.
Sunday. I don't know.
I can't
Whatever.
actually hear. Wait, let me just fix something.
So Liz, you're on your phone. Is that it? That's why your network's down? Or
No, I was on my computer, which decides to drop the network every once in a while. I
oh,
have
I
no
see.
idea why. The phone doesn't do that.
Oh, well, that's lucky. Your phone doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is Rabbi back from? I think he said he went to St. Louis.
Yes, he did. He
He,
went to
he,
visit his folks.
pardon?
He went to visit his folks, his dad, his mom,
Oh,
his
yeah.
sister.
Is he back?
He was supposed to be back on Friday.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know where he is now.
Here he is.
There he
Yes.
comes.
Yeah.
Hi,
You know what,
Rabbi.
Liz? I don't know what to
Morning,
say.
Rabbi.
I think in the back of my mind, I'm just saying if Liz
Just
doesn't
let's
text me, if Liz doesn't text me, I'm just going on, doing whatever I'm doing.
Well, it's nice to know you got back safely.
Yes, it was a brief, but it was one of those trips where because it was seeing my father and his wife Judy. At the same time, I'm also spending time with my sister and her kids. And also, my mother happens to live right there. So, spending quality time with my mother, these are all different like experiences. Plus, I have a brother from Israel who visited and a cousin from California who came with two of his kids, three of his, two of his
Wow.
kids. So, and each one I was trying to have a moment with.
Of
And
course.
so by the time uh, it was over, it felt like I must have been there for a month, but it was 2 days. I'm grateful to have been able to do it.
You crammed a lot into those 2 days.
Yes. And most of it was done while sitting, which is, people wouldn't think you could cram a lot in when you're sitting, but you can. All right. No, did not want to do that. Go back. Okay, so we are now in mitzvahs related. Well, they're related to marriage. In the past couple mitzvahs, we've been talking about the mitzvah to get married, which he is specifically kiddushin, which is in present day, it's done with it's been done for the last few thousand years, but with the presentation of a ring to the wife. She accepts the ring and witness that is kiddushin. That's how we do it today and for the past few thousand years. And the Rambam calls that a mitzvah. This is not agreed upon. There are others who do not think of it as a mitzvah, but rather as what we call a hechsher mitzvah. It's a preparation for the mitzvah, and according to them, and the Rabbeinu Asher is the one who's typically mentioned as the one who disagrees with the Rambam. Rabbeinu Asher feels that marriage is preparation for having children, that there is a mitzvah which marriage is attached to, but it is the mitzvah of having children. So you'd call it a hechsher mitzvah, a preparation.
Rabbi, when you mention that, just in general, how strictly do all the Chazal stick to 613? Because if Rabbi Asher says it's not a mitzvah, does he add another one at the end? I mean, is that an issue at all? Or
yes, it is. I don't know if he has. One second, Tzippy's calling me. I'm just going to take this for 1 second. I would not take over somebody else. But hey, Tzip. Pratt in California, I think. On the corner of Pratt in California. All right, bye. So I think we've even talked about how surprised I am at how seriously they take that number 613, how seriously the Rambam takes it. It is, especially the Rambam, who's open to the idea with Medrash that things do not have to be interpreted literally, especially things like numbers and other kinds of things when they're in a Gemara or Midrash. But for some reason, they took that number so seriously. And so the motivation for the Rambam to write this is because he felt people were making mistakes about this. What were the 613? That's why he's even writing this whole thing, is to correct mistakes or to put something out there that's mistake-free about what the 613 are. And he had this whole system for making a determination of what's a mitzvah and what's not a mitzvah. And then in so doing, he sort of cast aspersion on earlier works that had already been written about what are the 613, to the point where Nachmanides writes what amounts to a critique of this. And whenever he says the Rambam is mistaken and that this isn't a mitzvah, then he adds what is a mitzvah. Now like for instance, the Rambam does not count living in Israel as a mitzvah, as one of the 613. There's lots of discussion about it because the Rambam in other places says that Jews must live in Israel. So why doesn't he count it as part of the 613? Nachmanides counts it as one of the 613. And there's, I don't remember how many differences there are, but it's more than just a handful of differences where Nachmanides will say he's wrong about this. This is the one that is supposed to be counted as a mitzvah, not that one. And so, and then, yeah, so I don't think we have Rabbeinu Usher's list, but yes, if he's disagreeing that something's a mitzvah, then he would have something else. I do not know. It is baffling to me why they take that number so seriously, but it is taken seriously by lots of people, to the point where the Rambam's even writing this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So this, as we're going, it's just like connected mitzvahs. So there's a mitzvah of having children, and there's a mitzvah of bris milah. And now we have the mitzvah of yibum. So that is that he commanded us that a yavam, a levirate husband, marry the wife of his brother when the latter dies without leaving offspring. It actually uses in the Hebrew the word marries, no say, as if there is a marriage ceremony. I don't know why he uses this language, because there is no marriage ceremony with a yavam, as we'll talk about in a second.
Is that just a male offspring, or any, or a female or male?
Any offspring.
Okay.
And that is his, may he be exalted, saying her yavam will have intercourse with her. See, and the laws of the commandment have already been explained in Tractate Yevamos. So he even quotes the verse, and that makes it clear that all that has to happen is they consummate the relationship. There is no ceremony required. There did develop customs to do some kind of ceremony like Kedushin, but there's none required. In fact, the way it's characterized, there's an entire tractate devoted to this mitzvah, and the way it's characterized is that he sort of steps into the relationship that's already been formed. There was a relationship between his brother and this woman, and he's sort of stepping into it. So he doesn't need a new kedushin. He certainly doesn't need a new nesuin, which is the part that we often call chuppah, and then the intimacy that follows chuppah. He doesn't need that, because he's stepping into his brother's relationship. It seems like a eclectic mitzvah. It doesn't seem to be a profound mitzvah, but it is. This mitzvah, again, the way it happens is, if a brother dies while married and they have not had children, the brother, or one of the brothers, is expected to marry this woman. Again, I'm using the word marry, but it's basically to step in, and now she's going to be his wife. They are going to be husband and wife. There is the hope that there will be a child born, and that child will be a perpetuation of the brother. So this is a way of continuing the house of the brother. This is considered to be an act of chesed, an act of loving kindness by the brother, to ensure that the house of his brother is not ended. Rabbi Foreman spends a great deal of time on this mitzvah. He sees this mitzvah as one of the most fundamental in the Torah. Some examples are the cryptic several verses that end the Torah portion of Noach before Lech Lecha. There are several verses over there which, let's just look at them.
This is even if the brother is married, already married?
Yes. Yeah, even if the brother's already married. Nowadays, there is an option mentioned in the Torah. The language of that option suggests that it is not the preferred option, and that's called chalitza. And chalitza is a ceremony in which a shoe is taken, the woman spits and says, this guy doesn't want to continue his brother's household. He doesn't want to do the mitzvah. So it looks very much from the language of the Torah that this is not the preferred option. For the last 2,000 years, in many communities, it has become the preferred option. The feeling was that there's something very close to a problematic relationship in it. Obviously, it's what the Torah wants you to do, but because who knows all the stuff that could go on. But one of the things that even they don't overtly describe it this way, but it seems like it's in the background. If a brother is married and he doesn't have kids, his brother, he might be thinking, one day we're gonna be married to this other with this other woman. They don't overtly say that's a problem, but it seems like that might be there in the background. Anyways, it has become in many communities the preferred option. Nowadays, Ashkenazim do not do it. Ashkenazim do not do it. Sephardim do it, but I don't know what that means. I don't know if every country does it. The state of Israel, at one point, the chief rabbis got together and said that we're not doing Yibum anymore. And this was, I don't remember which, it could be Rabbi Unterman. I don't remember who the Sephardic chief rabbi was at the time, I'm not sure of the Ashkenazic one. But anyways, there was a time when the two chief rabbis agreed they're not doing Yibum anymore in Israel. And Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, he was young at the time. It's not Unterman, that wasn't his name. I forgot what his name was. Rabbi Ovadia Yosef says, "Who are you to say that you can't do Yibum?" The Rabbi Yosef Karo said you can do Yibum, and he was the great rabbi of Israel. And you guys, you can't make decisions that fly in the face, or Yosef Karo said. So he apparently oversaw Yibums. In contemporary time, Rabbi Daniel Fox, who's the rabbi of our synagogue here in Northbrook, Darchei Noam, he said he had a chavruta who was Persian, and this chavruta's grandparents were a Yibum. So it sounds like in the Persian community they were doing Yibum. If you go, there's in the Mount of Olives, one of the very famous graves there's obviously tons of famous graves there. One of the famous graves there is the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, Rabbi Chaim Ben Attar from Morocco. So he is buried with two Yevamot. Like he's buried there, his wife is buried there, and two Yevamot. It's not, I don't know who was married to who at the time, how they crossed, if they crossed over. I don't know for sure, but it does seem like, because within the Sephardic community, they continued to have, in many places, especially Morocco, they continued to have more than one wife in the Sephardic community. So in the Ashkenazi community, if they don't do Yibum anymore, even if somebody wanted to do Yibum, if he was married already, that he couldn't do Yibum, because Ashkenazim do not do more than one wife.
Rabbi, what happens if there was no brother, if there were no other brothers?
Then there's no Yibum, and there doesn't require any ceremony.
Oh, okay.
So this is the cryptic last verses of the Torah portion of Noach. Vayechi Terach Shivim Shana. Terach lived 70 years. Vayoled es Avram es Nachar ves Haran, and his wife, but through Terach, they gave birth to Avram, Nachar, and Haran. So there's three brothers. Ve'ela told those Terach, and these are the generations of Terach. Terach holid es Avram, es Nachar ves Haran, v'Haran holid es Lot. So Terach had Avram, Nachar, and Haran. Haran gave birth to Lot. Vayamas Haran al pnei Terach aviv, and Haran died while his father was still alive. Be'eretz Maladato, Ur Kasdim, in the place of their birth in Ur Kasdim. Vayikach Avram v'Nachar lahem nashim, and Avraham and Nachar took wives. Shem Eshes Avram Sarai, v'Shem Eshes Nachar Milka. So the wife of Avram was Sarai. The wife of Nachar was Milka, Bat Haran, Avi Milka va'avi Yiska, the daughter of Haran, who was the father of Milka and Yiska. Now, what is this last part trying to say? So, if you look in the Midrash, they unpack this verse. And so what's going to end up, according to the Midrash, is that Haran died and he left three kids. He left Lot, he left Milka, and he left Yiska. And Avraham and Nachor decided they are going to take, in other words, they're going to take responsibility for his children. So Avram married Sarai, which the Medrash says is identical with Yiska. That Yiska and Sarai are the same person. And Nachor took Milka. And then Avram also takes Lot. That's why Avram has Lot, because they decided that they are going to continue their brother's home. Now, this is not exactly Yibum, but this is in the ballpark of Yibum, enough to be, it's Yibum-like. It's Yibum-like enough to be connected to the mitzvah. This is how Rabbi Foreman understands it. And Rabbi Foreman, I mean, that's a medrash, but Rabbi Foreman suggests that this mitzvah runs through very crucial parts of the Torah, and he shows how when the Torah is discussing Yibum later on in the book of Deuteronomy, it is referencing these stories. And so, and also he says, because his question is, what has Avram done? What have we seen Avram do that makes God so sure that he is the right person to begin the Jewish people? And he wants to suggest it's this act of generosity and concern for his brother runs so counter to the way things were up to this time. He's like a beacon of chesed, of loving kindness, in a time that has where this was not prevalent, and that it was this very act, Yibum-like act, this very act that that causes God to choose Abraham for the hugely important role that he eventually chooses Avram, which is to be the beginning of the Jewish people. And then goes on to be cryptic, but anyways, that's that. Okay. And then the other Yibum-like story that we have coming up in Bereshis. Let's see here. Problem is it? It's chapter 2 or chapter 3? No. Oh no, it's not. So after the sale of Joseph and Joseph getting situated in Egypt, we have a discussion of Yehuda. We have it says, about that time Judah left his brothers and camped near a certain Adulamite whose name was Hira. There he saw the daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. He took her into his household as wife and cohabited with her. She conceived and bore a son who named him Er. She conceived again and bore a son named Onan. Once again she bore a son and named him Shelach. He was Eksiv when she bore him. Judah got a wife for Er, his firstborn. Her name was Tamar. Er's, Judah's son, was displeasing before God. God took his life. Then Yehuda said to Onan, join with your brother's wife. Now, why is he saying join with your brother's wife? Because it's Yibum. Again, this is before the Torah. But there is some manner of Yibum reflected. This was a demonstration of care towards brothers, which was, and it says, which, and do yibum with her. They actually uses the word yibum with her. V'hakem zera la'achicha, and raise up seed to your brother. So this is like an act of loving kindness to your brother. That by Tamar having a child, it will be sort of credited to your brother. He doesn't want to do it, but knowing that the offspring will not count as his, he let the semen go to waste whenever he joined with his brother's wife, so as not to provide offspring for his brother. What he did was displeasing before God, who took his life also. There are many who point to this as an indication that masturbation is a heinous crime, and yet there are others, including Moshe Feinstein, who suggest that while masturbation may not be proper, this is not really about masturbation. This is about not wanting to do yibum. And that's what he's being punished for, not wanting, or the result of yibum. Not wanting the result of yibum, which is to raise a child for his brother. So it's that chesed aspect that he doesn't want. And that seems to be what's displeasing here. But again, it shows you just how important this mitzvah is taken. This, again, it seems like just like a kind of sort of mitzvah that's out there, but sort of an outlier kind of mitzvah or something, but it's not. It's a fundamental mitzvah. And then Yehuda, says to Tamar, stay as a widow in your father's house until Shelah grows up. And then you have this whole story with Yehuda and Tamar. But it also happens within the context of Yibum. And then you have, again, what these are obviously, the Yehuda and Tamar one is probably the most explicit about Yibum, but there is also Ruth and Boaz. In Ruth and Boaz, even though, again, in Ruth and Boaz, it's not brothers. Just like Avraham, it's not his brother's wife, it's his brother's daughter and son that he's raising, or marrying and raising. But in the case of Ruth, it's not brothers, but it's still going to be Yibum. As we'll see here. Boaz had gone to the gate and sat down there, and now the Redeemer, who Boaz had mentioned, passed by. What does it mean, Redeemer? In other words, there was a designated relative of Ruth's husband, Ruth's first husband, who is expected to do Yibum with her. Now, he is not a brother, but they had this extension of the Yibum mitzvah to include cousins. And he is a cousin, and he's expected to do Yibum with her. And so he's called the Goel, the Redeemer. So whenever you use the word Redeemer, it's like something is lost or potentially lost, and this person is retrieving it. So it's not lost. And now the Redeemer whom Boaz had mentioned passed by. He said, come over here and sit down, so-and-so. They call him Ploni Almoni, which is sort of like John Doe. And come over here and sit down. Then Boaz took 10 elders of the town and said, be seated here. They sat down. He said to the Redeemer, Naomi, now returned from the country of Moab, has to sell a piece of land which belonged to our kinsman Elimelech. I thought I should discuss the matter with you and say, acquired in the presence of those seated here, in the presence of the elders of my people. If you're willing to redeem it, redeem. But if you will not redeem, tell me, that I may know, for there is no one to redeem but you and I coming after you, and I will redeem it. Now, we know in context that although it sounds like he's talking about redeeming land, which is a usage of the word goel. If you look at the Torah portion of Bahar, which is coming up this next week, it talks in that portion. We did it in our, did we do it? Yeah, we did it together in our Thursday class. The language of redeemer comes up there. A goel is a person who, if their relative has to sell their land because of hard times, it's a mitzvah for the relative to buy the land for the cousin. In other words, to redeem the land. So it sounds like they're talking about land. And there may be land, but they're really talking about Ruth. This is euphemistic language about Ruth. I thought I should disclose the matter to you and say, acquired in the presence of those seated here, in the presence of the elders of my people. If you're willing to redeem it, redeem it. If you will not redeem it, tell me so I may know. For there is no one to redeem it but you, and I come after you. I'm willing to redeem it, he replied. Boaz continued, when you acquire the property from Naomi and from Ruth the Moabite, you must also acquire the wife of the deceased, so as to perpetuate the name of the deceased upon his estate. They all knew that's what was going on. The Redeemer replied, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I impair my own estate. You take over my right of redemption, for I am unable to exercise it. So again, in euphemistic language, he is saying he's not going to do evil. There was speculation in amongst commentators in the Medrash that he was married already and his wife would not have been happy with him doing this redemption. So he says, I can't do it. I have my own theory. My own theory is that he could tell Boaz want to do this from the beginning, and he doesn't want to cross Boaz. In my reading of this, the fact that Boaz is having him sit amongst the elders, there is a scene in the West Wing where there is this guy, I think it was about people on the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, and President Bartlett needed this guy to decide to be on the federal. Anyways, they decide they're going to intimidate him. So they bring him to the White House. They have these Marines standing there, and everything. When they bring him into the Oval Office. The Secretary of Treasury, the Secretary of Commerce, they're all like in there, and everything is being done to intimidate this guy because they don't want the guy to say no. But it's just a very funny scene because everything about what he's experiencing is just so intimidating. And I imagine something similar in my version, in my head, that Boaz has set up this group of 10 guys. Here, come over, let's do this amongst 10 guys. And they're all these important people and Boaz. And Boaz is, saying, of course, you could redeem her. And this guy's just looking over the situation. He's probably terrified. And he goes, no, that's okay. I can't redeem her. And then that allows for Boaz to do it because he can tell that Boaz wants to do it. Now, this was formerly done in Israel in cases of redemption or exchange to validate any transaction. One should take off his sandal and hand it to the other. Such was the practice in Israel. This is a loose version of chalitza. So the other guy, when the Redeemer said to Boaz, acquire for yourself, he drew off his sandal. So he's doing chalitza, and Boaz said to the elders and to the rest of the people, you are witness today that I am inquiring from Naomi, all that belongs to Elimelech and all that belong to Kilion and Machlon. I'm also acquiring Ruth the Moabite, the wife of Machlon, as my wife, so as to perpetuate the name of the deceased. Again, mentions that. Yehuda mentioned that. And Rabbi Foreman is building on the Midrash to suggest that that was what Avram and Noach were doing. They're perpetuating the name of the deceased, that the name of the deceased may not disappear from among his kinsmen and from the gate of his hometown. You are witness today. And the people of the gate and elders answers, we are. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah, both of whom built up the house of Israel, prosper in Ephrata and perpetuate your name in Bethlehem. One thing that I asked, may your house be like the house of Peretz, who Tamar bore to Yehuda. You see the connection between Ruth and Yehuda and Tamar through the offspring which the Lord would give you by this young woman. So Boaz married Ruth. She became his wife. He cohabited with her, and the Lord let her conceive. She bore a son. One of the things that I have asked Rabbi Foreman is, how come you don't name the kid after the father? If you're perpetuating the guy's name, shouldn't you actually perpetuate his name? It sounds like you're perpetuating his household. He should, this kid, and you also don't see the kid as like somehow uniquely connected to whoever the Yibum is for. Like, for instance, there in the case of Sarah, in the case of Yitzchak, you don't see Yitzchak connected to Haran. Yitzchak is apparently the continuation of his brother's seed. You don't see Peretz connected to Er and Onan. You don't see the child born to Ruth connected to Machlon and Kilion, or whichever one it was. Machlon, I think, was her husband. You don't see them connected. Why not? Shouldn't they be connected? Shouldn't the names be said, or shouldn't there be some indication from the future? This child is treated as Boaz's son. You even see the lineage. The lineage, when it describes the lineage of this child here. So you have Peretz going down, Aminadav, Shalmon, Oved. Who do we say? I think they say that Boaz is here. Boaz Holid is Oved. So the child's name is Oved, right? He is considered, even in the lineage, to be a child of Boaz. Boaz is a descendant of Yehuda. He's not considered to be a child of Machlon. He's considered to be a child of Boaz. And Peretz is considered to be a child of Yehuda, even though you would think that they should be associated with the household of the other person, but they're not.
Yes, this whole dynamic, which actually you trace right back to Ruth's to the, where she came from.
Yeah, she's a Moabite.
Which right from the father, they seduced their father, and this whole thing is I don't know, it's very mysterious because it also involves things that are forbidden in the Torah, like not uncovering the wife of Yehuda. Right, exactly.
Yehuda, and possibly Boaz and Ruth, but they decided it wasn't. Yes, but so there's a lot of that going on. And okay, but we will continue our discussion of Yibum tomorrow. I look forward to doing that. I'm grateful for having been able to do it today. Be well.
Bye-bye.